The holographic message flickered in the command center as Ambassador Zekthor of the Galactic Empire delivered his ultimatum. General Katie Morrison watched the aliens' three eyes blink in what their translators identified as supreme confidence. Behind her, the Joint Chief sat in silence as the ambassador's mechanical voice droned on about humanity's immediate surrender. Your species will submit all military assets within 72 standard hours. Failure to comply will result in systematic extermination. The Empire has conquered 4,000 civilizations across 800 worlds. You are species 4001. The transmission ended. For exactly 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then General Morrison started laughing. Not a polite chuckle, but a deep, genuine laugh that echoed off the concrete walls. Within moments, Admiral Lucas Grant joined in, followed by General Patricia Hayes, and soon the entire room erupted in laughter that bordered on hysteria. Did he just threaten us? General Ben Carter wiped tears from his eyes. Did that walking squid actually just threaten humanity? Morrison composed herself first, though her shoulders still shook. Somebody get me a line to the President. And someone pull up everything we have on this galactic empire. Lieutenant Chris Parker worked his console, pulling data onto the main screen. What appeared made the laughter die in patches across the room, replaced by something far more dangerous: interest. The Empire's military doctrine appeared on screen. Their weapons used plasma-based technology, effective but requiring significant charge time between shots. Their ships relied on energy shields that regenerated slowly. Their ground forces wore powered armor that enhanced strength but limited mobility. Their strategy centered on overwhelming displays of force against primitive worlds. They've never fought anyone who shot back, Admiral Grant observed, leaning forward. Look at this. Every single conquest was against pre-industrial or early industrial civilizations. They show up, blast a few cities from orbit, and accept surrender. Their most recent war was against a species that had just invented steam engines, Colonel Ryan Webb added. Before that, Bronze Age farmers. They're bullies who only pick fights they know they'll win. Morrison pulled up tactical data, her mind already racing through scenarios. The Empire's fleet consisted of 300 warships spread across their territory. Individually, each ship outmassed anything humanity had built. They carried enough firepower to glass a continent and shields that could withstand sustained bombardment. On paper, it looked impossible. On paper, humanity should surrender immediately. How long until their fleet reaches Earth? Morrison asked. 18 days at their maximum speed, Parker replied. They're coming from the Kepler system. 18 days. Morrison stood, addressing the room. Here's what they don't know. They don't know we've been fighting each other for 10,000 years. They don't know we've perfected warfare into an art form. They don't know that we've built weapons specifically designed to kill other humans who are just as clever and just as determined as we are. She pulled up an image of Earth's defensive network. Thousands of satellites in synchronized orbits. Magnetic accelerator platforms on the moon. Missile installations scattered across every continent. Submarine-launched interceptors in every ocean. This wasn't a defensive grid built to impress primitives. This was a network designed by paranoid nations convinced their neighbors would attack at any moment. They think we're species 4001. Admiral Grant said slowly, understanding blooming across his face. They have no idea what they just walked into. Morrison smiled, and it wasn't pleasant. Let's teach them why nobody in human history has ever successfully conquered all of humanity. Lieutenant Parker, I want every military installation on full alert. Give me profiles on their ship capabilities, their tactics, everything. Admiral Grant, start moving the fleet into position. Make it look defensive, but I want firing solutions on their approach vectors. And the President? Colonel Webb asked. Tell him the Empire just made the biggest mistake in their 4,000 conquest history. Tell him we're going to war, and we're going to win. Morrison looked at the star map showing the Empire's approaching fleet. They wanted to add us to their list. Instead, we're going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. The room erupted into focused chaos as orders flew and personnel scrambled to their stations. On the main screen, the Empire's fleet continued its steady approach, completely unaware that they weren't heading toward helpless primitives. They were heading toward a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of killing. A species that had built weapons capable of ending their own world 100 times over. A species that had never united for anything except when someone threatened them all. The Empire was about to learn a very hard lesson. Humanity didn't surrender. Humanity fought back. Within hours, every military base on Earth received the same message. The Galactic Empire had declared war.
Prepare for combat operations. The response was universal and immediate.
From Moscow to Washington, from Beijing to London, from Delhi to Brasilia, the answer was the same. Finally, a fight worth having. Finally, an enemy everyone could agree on. Finally, a war that mattered. The generals had stopped laughing. Now they were planning, and that was far more dangerous. 18 days until contact. The countdown had begun. The briefing room in Colorado filled with faces both physical and holographic. As military leaders from every nation gathered, General Morrison stood at the head of the table, a three-dimensional map of the solar system rotating slowly between them. Red markers indicated the Empire's projected fleet positions. Blue markers showed humanity's assets. "Let me make something clear from the start," Morrison began. "This isn't Earth versus the Empire. This is humanity versus the Empire. Every petty grudge, every territorial dispute, every political disagreement ends right now. We're one species, one military, one target. Understood?" Nods came from around the table. Chinese General Li Wei spoke first. "My government agrees completely. We're mobilizing everything. What's the strategy?" Morrison zoomed the display to show the approaching enemy fleet. 300 ships in a standard Imperial formation, advancing in a broad wedge designed to intimidate. They're following their standard playbook. Arrive in overwhelming force, demand surrender, demonstrate power by destroying a major city if refused. They expect us to panic and submit. Instead, Russian Admiral Volkov asked, a predatory smile on his weathered face. Instead, we let them think they're winning right up until the moment we tear them apart. Morrison highlighted Earth's defensive grid. Here's what they know about us. They picked up our radio signals, analyzed our broadcasts, determined we're technologically advanced but divided. They see nations, not unity. They see a fractured species easy to conquer. French General Dubois leaned forward. They don't know about our defensive capabilities? They have no idea. Their reconnaissance was passive observation only. They saw cities, detected electromagnetic radiation, watched our news broadcasts. They concluded we're advanced enough to be useful as a labor force, but primitive enough to crush easily. Morrison's smile was cold. They never considered that a species might build weapons capable of destroying themselves. That's not a concept they understand. Admiral Grant pulled up technical specifications. Our advantage is simple. They've fought primitive species for so long they've forgotten what real warfare looks like. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and basic kinetic projectiles. They've never encountered railguns firing depleted uranium penetrators at a significant fraction of light speed. They've never seen nuclear-tipped missiles with terminal guidance systems. They've never fought an enemy that plans 3 moves ahead. What about their numbers advantage? Indian General Sharma asked. 300 ships against our what? 70 operational warships? 73, Admiral Grant corrected. But that's thinking in their terms. They bring ships because ships impress primitives. We bring weapons systems. Every one of our vessels carries enough firepower to engage multiple targets simultaneously. We have point defense systems that can track and eliminate thousands of incoming threats. We have electronic warfare capabilities they've never encountered. And most importantly, we have something they don't. What's that? Someone asked. Experience fighting enemies who are actually dangerous, Morrison brought up historical data. The Empire's last real challenge was 300 years ago against a species that had just developed gunpowder. Before that, nothing. Their military hasn't faced an actual threat in living memory. Meanwhile, we've been in continuous warfare somewhere on Earth for all of recorded history. We've developed tactics, counter-tactics, and counter-counter-tactics. We've built weapons to defeat our own defenses because we know someone else will try. They're coming at us with the military equivalent of a sledgehammer. We're going to introduce them to precision. General Li Wei studied the tactical display. You're proposing we let them get close. I'm proposing we let them commit completely. They'll enter the solar system expecting terrified primitives. Instead, we'll be waiting with firing solutions already locked. We hit them hard, fast, and from every angle simultaneously. We don't give them time to adapt or retreat. The moon bases? British Admiral Richardson asked. 12-mast driver installations, all charged and ready. Each one can put a 15-ton tungsten rod on target at lunar escape velocity. At those speeds, kinetic energy alone will punch through their shields like they're not even there. We've calculated impact forces. A single hit will core one of their capital ships from bow to stern. Colonel Webb pulled up satellite data. We've repositioned every weapons platform in Earth orbit. They're currently disguised as communications satellites and space debris. The Empire scans won't identify them as threats until we activate them. By then they'll be inside our engagement envelope with nowhere to run. What about planetary defense? German General Hoffman asked. Morrison highlighted Earth itself. Every ICBM silo, every submarine, every mobile launcher has been retasked. We've pulled warheads out of retirement, reactivated decommissioned systems, and built new ones. If they get past our orbital defenses and try to bombard Earth, they'll face a missile swarm unlike anything in their experience. Thousands of independent projectiles, each with terminal maneuvering capability, each capable of tracking and eliminating targets autonomously. They'll never expect it, Admiral Volkov said with satisfaction. They think we're primitives. They think we'll panic and beg for mercy. That's exactly what we want them to think. Which brings me to the diplomatic component. Morrison brought up a new display. We're going to respond to their surrender demand. We're going to send Ambassador Williams with a message of confusion and fear. We're going to ask for more time, plead for negotiation, show them exactly what they expect to see. Frightened primitives who don't understand what they're facing. Japanese Admiral Tanaka nodded slowly. While we prepare the ambush. Exactly. We give them confidence. We make them think this will be easy. We let them bring their entire fleet in close, nice and clustered in their intimidation formation, and then we show them what happens when you threaten humanity. General Li Wei brought up resource allocations. China is contributing 200 orbital platforms, 6,000 missiles, and full electronic warfare support. What else do you need? Coordination, Morrison replied. This only works if we strike as one. I need every nation to link their command systems through the new network we've established. I need firing solutions calculated and locked by day 14. I need every weapons platform, every missile, every railgun synchronized to fire within a 3-second window. We hit them with everything, all at once, and we don't stop until every single Imperial ship is debris. Around the table, leaders exchanged glances. They'd spent decades, sometimes centuries, as adversaries. Now they were being asked to trust completely, to share targeting data, to coordinate at a level that required absolute transparency. General Sharma spoke for them all. For humanity. We're in. For humanity, the others echoed. Morrison felt something shift in that moment. This wasn't just military cooperation. This was something that hadn't existed before. Unity born not from peace treaties or diplomatic agreements, but from shared threat. An entire species deciding simultaneously that outside enemies trumped internal divisions. All right. Here's the timeline. Day 1 through 10. We prepare while appearing to panic. Day 11, we send our diplomatic response, buying more time. Day 12 through 17, we finalize positions and lock in firing solutions. Day 18, they enter our engagement range. And then we introduce the Galactic Empire to human warfare. Admiral Grant pulled up additional specifications. A note on their shields. Our analysis suggests they regenerate using a capacitor-based system. High burst damage, they hold. Sustained fire, they hold. But rapid cycling between different damage types disrupts the regeneration pattern. We hit them with kinetic penetrators, immediately follow with plasma charges from our experimental weapons, then nuclear warheads with electromagnetic pulse components. Their shields won't know what to compensate for. What if they adapt? Someone asked. Then we adapt faster, Morrison replied simply. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. They've spent 300 years conquering primitives. We've spent 10,000 years fighting ourselves. There is no tactical scenario we haven't encountered, no strategy we haven't countered, no weapon we haven't learned to defeat. They think they're the apex predators of the galaxy. We're going to show them they're not even close. Colonel Webb highlighted communication protocols. We've also prepared for the worst case. If somehow they break through, if they reach Earth, we have ground defense plans. Every major city has anti-ship emplacements. We've stockpiled weapons capable of engaging aerial targets. We've prepared resistance networks. They want to conquer us? They'll find out that humans don't stop fighting just because the odds are bad. We get meaner when we're losing. The meeting continued for hours, every detail examined, every contingency planned. Ammunition production ramped to maximum capacity. Shipyards that had been idle for years roared back to life. Factories retooled to produce weapons components. Across Earth, humanity mobilized for war with an efficiency that shocked even the military planners. In Moscow, missile crews drilled constantly, reducing launch sequences to under 30 seconds. In Washington, satellite controllers ran simulations until they could redirect orbital weapons platforms blindfolded. In Beijing, electronic warfare specialists developed virus packages designed to infiltrate Imperial command systems. In Paris, nuclear weapons specialists fine-tuned detonation sequences for maximum electromagnetic disruption. The unity was unprecedented. Russian and American commanders shared tactical data freely. Chinese and Japanese engineers collaborated on weapons modifications. Indian and Pakistani forces coordinated defense grids. Ancient hatreds and modern rivalries evaporated in the face of existential threat. By day 7, every military on Earth operated under unified command. By day 10, every weapons system was synchronized to a master countdown. By day 14, humanity was more prepared for war than at any point in its history. And still the Empire's fleet came on, confident and assured, completely unaware that they weren't approaching frightened primitives. They were approaching a trap built by the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Humans, united, angry, and ready to fight. General Morrison watched the countdown tick down in the command center. 4 days until contact. Around her, personnel moved with quiet efficiency, voices calm, movements precise. This was it. Everything humanity had built, everything they'd learned, everything they'd become, would be tested against an empire that had never known defeat. She thought about the ambassador's words. Species 4001. The Empire probably had a standard procedure for this. Show up, make threats, accept surrender, move on. Routine. Boring. Expected. They were about to find out that humanity was anything but routine. Day 18 arrived with clear skies across most of Earth. In orbit, weapons platforms that had spent weeks disguised as debris quietly rotated to attack positions. On the moon, mass driver crews made final calibrations. In underground silos, missile hatches unlocked. Submarine crews flooded tubes and armed warheads. The trap was set. The Imperial fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel exactly where predicted, 300 ships in perfect formation at the edge of the solar system. For a moment they simply coasted, probably scanning, analyzing, preparing their standard intimidation approach. In the Colorado Command Center, General Morrison watched the displays with cold satisfaction. Admiral Grant, status? All platforms green. All missiles armed. All railguns charged. Awaiting your command, General. Colonel Webb? Electronic warfare? Virus packages ready to deploy. We've identified their command ship based on communication patterns. Once we engage, we'll flood their systems with attack code. Even if it doesn't work, it'll create confusion. General Li Wei? The holographic image of the Chinese general nodded. All forces synchronized. We're ready. Morrison looked around the room at faces representing every military on Earth. United command. United purpose. United species. This is it. We've spent our entire history fighting each other, learning, adapting, becoming the most dangerous thing we could imagine. Today, we show the galaxy what that means. Today, we teach the Empire that humanity doesn't surrender. Today, we fight back. She took a breath, watching the enemy fleet begin its approach toward Earth. Confident, assured. Doomed. All forces, weapons free, fire. The response was instantaneous. 12 mass drivers on the moon launched their tungsten penetrators, invisible streaks crossing space at impossible velocities. 800 orbital platforms activated simultaneously, railguns spooling up and unleashing depleted uranium rounds. 3,000 missiles erupted from Earth, from orbit, from hidden installations across the solar system. Nuclear warheads, conventional explosives, kinetic kill vehicles, electronic warfare packages. All of it, everything humanity had built, launched in a synchronized wave of destruction. The Empire's fleet had exactly 4 seconds of warning before the first impacts. Their shields flared, energy barriers designed to stop conventional weapons activated automatically. Then the tungsten rods hit at lunar escape velocity. Kinetic energy alone, no explosives needed, just mass times velocity squared. The numbers were devastating. The results were catastrophic. The lead Imperial ship's shield held for exactly 0.3 seconds before the rod punched through, cored the vessel from bow to stern, and exited the other side in a spray of molten metal and vaporized organics. The ship broke apart, internal explosions rippling along its length. Then the railgun rounds arrived, thousands of them, fired from hundreds of platforms, each round tracking independently. Shields flickered and failed under the barrage. Hulls ruptured. Ships began evasive maneuvers, but they were in formation, clustered together for maximum intimidation effect. There was nowhere to go that wasn't occupied by another Imperial vessel. The missiles came next, terminal guidance systems activating, each one locked onto a separate target. Point defense systems on the Imperial ships engaged. Plasma bursts attempting to intercept, but there were too many missiles, coming from too many angles. Nuclear warheads detonated in space. Electromagnetic pulses washing over the enemy fleet. Scrambling systems and disrupting shields. Conventional explosives slammed into weakened hull sections. Kinetic kill vehicles struck at relativistic speeds. The Empire's return fire was immediate but panicked. Plasma charges and energy beams lanced out, destroying satellites and missiles. But for every human weapon destroyed, 10 more came in. The orbital battle turned into a chaotic melee as the Empire tried to respond to threats from every direction simultaneously. In the command center, displays showed the tactical situation in real time. Blue markers for human weapons, red markers for Imperial ships. The red markers were disappearing at an alarming rate. "They're trying to break formation," Admiral Grant reported. "Looks like they're attempting to scatter and retreat." "Don't let them," Morrison ordered. "All units target priority to ships showing retreat vectors. We don't let any of them leave this system." More missiles launched. More railgun rounds fired. The moon's mass drivers reloaded and launched again, tungsten rods crossing space to slam into ships trying to flee. One Imperial vessel managed to activate its faster-than-light drive, the telltale energy signature building. 3 nuclear missiles bracketed it, detonations disrupting the field. The ship tore itself apart as incompatible physics intersected. "Their command ship is requesting communication," Colonel Webb announced. "Ignore it," Morrison said flatly. They wanted war. They're getting war. The battle lasted 17 minutes from first contact to final ship destroyed. 17 minutes of concentrated violence that saw 300 Imperial warships reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Human losses were significant but acceptable. 60 orbital platforms destroyed. 400 satellites eliminated by point defense fire. 800 missiles intercepted. But the fleet? The fleet survived intact, protected by layers of defensive fire and strategic positioning. As the last Imperial ship broke apart under sustained railgun fire, silence fell over the command center. 300 ships. 300 ships that had conquered 4,000 civilizations. Gone. Destroyed. Eliminated by a species they'd thought primitive. "Scan for survivors," Morrison ordered quietly. "And get me an open channel to whatever's left of their communication network." "Channel open," Webb confirmed after a moment. Morrison leaned toward the microphone, choosing her words carefully. "Attention, Galactic Empire. This is General Katie Morrison of Earth. Your fleet came here expecting an easy conquest. You thought we were species 4001. You thought we would surrender. You were wrong. What you just experienced is what happens when you threaten humanity. We are not primitives. We are not victims. We are not defenseless. We are warriors who have spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of warfare. We are survivors who have built weapons capable of destroying ourselves because we know someone will try. You wanted to add us to your list of conquered species. Instead, you've learned a valuable lesson. Humanity fights back." She paused, looking at the debris field on her screens. "I suggest you take this message back to your empire. Leave us alone. Do not return. Do not threaten us again. Because this," she gestured at the tactical display showing the annihilated fleet, "this was us being gentle. This was us using conventional weapons against an external threat. You don't want to see what we're capable of when we're actually angry? You don't want to learn what we do to enemies who persist? Go home. Tell your leaders that Earth is off limits. Tell them that humanity is not to be trifled with. Tell them that there are predators in this galaxy far more dangerous than they ever imagined, and we're one of them." The transmission ended. Morrison straightened, looking around the command center. "Damage assessment, casualty reports, and start planning cleanup operations for all that debris before it becomes a navigation hazard." The room erupted into focused activity, but underneath the professional efficiency, something had changed. Every person in that room, and by extension every human on Earth, had just witnessed something unprecedented. Total victory against an enemy that had never lost. Unity in the face of existential threat. Proof that when pushed, when threatened, when faced with annihilation, humanity could stand together and fight back. General Morrison walked to the window looking out at the sky. Somewhere up there among the stars, an empire was about to receive news that would shake them to their core. An empire built on 300 years of unchallenged conquest had just lost an entire fleet to a species they dismissed as primitive.
The political implications would be enormous. The military consequences would be severe. But more than that, humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy. Not as victims, not as primitives, but as warriors, as survivors. As a species that did not surrender, did not submit, and most definitely did not go quietly. The Empire had wanted war. They'd gotten it. And they'd learned in 17 brutal minutes why you never threaten a species that has spent its entire existence preparing for exactly this fight. Outside, the sun set over Colorado, painting the sky in reds and golds. Above, in orbit, debris from 300 Imperial ships slowly tumbled through space. A monument to arrogance, and a warning to the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same.